I know that between your firstborn and the baby who's 1 month old right now, you did have a miscarriage. Do you want to share about that or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah?
Again, I did not pick um,
Mm,
to have that experience, but it happened to me, and I want to share my story and Shalom's story so that other moms
mm,
who've been through something, or even if they have a friend who went through it and they don't really know what to say,
yeah.
just to try to be helpful. And but yeah, so we decided when Roman was a year old that we were going to start trying to have another baby, and we got
Mhm.
pregnant right away, which happened with Roman as well. So we were super excited. I was super sick, very
Mm,
nauseous. I even vomited a little bit, and but we were super excited. And the day before my 8-week ultrasound, I just got this overwhelming feeling that something was wrong.
mm,
And I was telling my husband about it, and he was like, "Well, like, have you had any bleeding? Are you having cramping? Like, why? Like, what's making you have that those thoughts, do you think?" And I don't know. I just am really nervous for the ultrasound tomorrow, and I just have a bad feeling that something's wrong.
mm.
So going into the ultrasound, I was very anxious, and sure enough, when they were doing the ultrasound, my womb was empty. There was no baby
Mm,
to be seen, and I knew right away because we had already had a kid, that the baby wasn't where the baby was supposed to be.
yeah.
So, thankfully, I didn't have an ectopic pregnancy, so the baby didn't implant where the baby wasn't supposed to implant. But what had happened was we had what is called a blighted ovum miscarriage,
Mm,
which means that we did conceive a child. However, the child passed away very early on. But
mm,
my body didn't register that the child had passed away. And so my body was preparing a womb for the child. And
yeah.
that's, preparing all the hormones and everything. And so that's
Mm,
why I still felt so sick. And that's why the pregnancy tests were positive.
mm,
Um, and it was very confusing, and it was very heartbreaking, and I just couldn't believe that this was happening to us.
yeah.
um, and I was so excited for Roman to be a big brother.
Mm,
I'm the oldest of six, and four of us are very close in age, and so
mm,
I'm from a big family, and I wanted Roman to have at least one sibling to play around and get into trouble with, as he grows,
yeah.
and to have best friends as an adult, siblings. I just would hope and pray that they would, be best friends growing up and
Yeah.
everything. So I was just devastated, and
Mm,
my depression got bad again. That was a big
mm,
trigger for my depression. And but what we decided with our doctor, we decided to go with the same doctor who delivered our son because we needed an OB instead of a midwife. And we decided to give my body time to miscarry our baby naturally.
mm,
However, the doctor explained to us that if the baby, if my body didn't miscarry the child on its own within a couple weeks, that I would be at a risk of developing a cancer in my uterus. I forget
mm,
exactly what it's called. So that was very scary. So not only had we
yeah.
heard that our baby didn't make it, but you know, here's a
Yeah, there was
here's
this
a way.
potential risk. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a waiting game, of seeing when your body catches on to what happened, and also
Yeah.
if it doesn't catch on in time, you have a risk of developing this cancer.
Yeah.
So, but we decided to wait. We had an ultrasound again. I think it was a week and a half later, and the baby still wasn't to be found. But they had said there
Mm,
was a very small chance that maybe I was just really a lot earlier than I had thought I was, but that was not the
yeah.
case. And honestly,
Thank
I knew it in my heart that
yeah.
wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Um, and so we decided that the next day they had an opening for a D&C procedure. And so we decided to go ahead and schedule the D&C, which is a surgery where they remove, everything in your womb and the baby
Yeah.
after you have a miscarriage. So
Mm.
if your body isn't miscarrying on its own, or if it's just having trouble miscarrying on its own, then they will do that procedure. So that's what we decided to do. And I lost a liter of blood. And so
Oh my
I had
goodness.
a huge complication
Oh my gosh.
from that procedure. And so again, the recovery was a lot more than
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be. I couldn't drive, I believe, for a whole month, and I needed, honestly, to be watched
Yeah.
for the first week, because I would get dizzy and I would pass out, and so not only did my son need to be taken care of, but I also needed to be taken care of until my body started to restore the blood that I had lost.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. And again, thank you for sharing that very vulnerable experience. What were kind of how did you and your husband heal from that experience? And I'm sure there's still some healing
Mm-hmm.
that's going on, but yeah, how did you guys kind of move on from that? Not that you move on, but what were your next steps after that point?
Yes. So I did research on books for women who have miscarried, and we are Christians, and so I specifically wanted books that came from a biblical perspective. And so I found this wonderful book called "What Was Lost" by her last name is Barrett, and it's just a great book that talks about the very many different emotions that you experience after having a miscarriage, sometimes one at a time, sometimes all at once,
Mm,
with anger and depression and sadness and grief and
mm,
disbelief, and all of the different things. And I just loved the way that she approached the topic, because she did it from a biblical perspective, but she also had did a ton of research as far as like psychological and medically
mm,
speaking, what happens with your body when you have a miscarriage. And she also interviewed other moms who had miscarried their children, and so just those three viewpoints combined just really helped me cope and get ideas
mm,
of how to honor our child.
mm,
Because that was another thing we had to decide was, are we going to talk about this child that
mm,
we didn't get to know? Are we gonna honor his or her memory publicly, or are we gonna try to keep it to ourselves? And I told my
mm,
husband that I wouldn't be true to myself if I never talked about our child publicly. And so we decided to give our child a name, and we
mm,
named him or her Shalom Emery. And
mm,
Shalom means peace, and Emery means brave and powerful.
mm,
And I made a shadow box of Shalom's ultrasound and Bible verses that just comforted my husband and I after losing him and her. And we ordered
mm,
this beautiful hand sculptured ornament, and it's a little baby on a heart with
mm,
Shalom's name, and that is hanging up in our living room. And
mm,
then I also ordered a watercolored painting of Jesus holding a baby, and we also have that hung in our living room. And just having Shalom's memory present where we spend a lot of our time has been very healing for me personally,
mm,
because I I'm acknowledging that experience, and acknowledging that my baby, I did have a baby, even though his or her life was very, very short in the womb.
yeah.
And just a lot of prayer and going to church, and you getting reconnected with friends. And after I posted on my social media about our miscarriage, I had a couple of old teachers actually who reached out to me and shared their stories. And
Mm,
so that was very helpful. It made me feel like I wasn't alone, and I wasn't the only
Yeah.
mama who was grieving this baby, that I had no idea,
Yeah.
if the baby was even a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
And we also spent time with family as much as we could that summer, and just really tried to spend time with our son and to really enjoy him and the age that he
Yeah.
was at. And it's definitely, Shalom is a big part of our pregnancy with our baby that we just had, and was a big part, honestly, of our birth story too. So just the opportunity to talk about Shalom here has been very healing as well.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's so important. I feel like for so many women who deal with, especially really early pregnancy loss, is that there's a part of them that wants to be like, well, nothing, like, it was so early, like, why am I sad about this? Like, I wasn't even, like, I shouldn't have even been connected to this life. Like, it just seems there's a part of you that wants to shut it away, and not feel connected. But I think what's important to realize is that you are grieving a lifetime imagined with them, that lifetime of
Absolutely.
possibility. And that's what you have lost, and that's what you're having to grieve, that even though it was early on, you loved them as much as when they are going to be 100 as you do on that first day you see that pregnancy test. And so
Absolutely.
I think that's what's so hard, because it's not like you've seen any physical changes. You don't have that belly yet. You haven't, it's not like you have that physical, tangible thing, but you still have that deep connection. And that's why it is so challenging, but so important to honor that life like you did. And I think that's so special, all the ways that you found to heal and to bring remembrance into that experience with your baby. And so thank you for sharing that. And I think for any woman who does deal with miscarriage, finding ways to be educated and find healing in whatever way that looks like is so important, and sharing that with, loved ones and people who you trust and connect with, because otherwise it's, again, a very isolating experience if you don't share with people that very big life event. Mama, if you love this snippet from the Built to Birth podcast, you can hear the full story and other positive and empowering birth stories just like this one by clicking the boxes on the screen. You can also check out builttobirth.com for resources on how to have a happier, healthier, and easier birth.